show me anybody that does not have an aunt of 60 or 70 years old that is not still living in a backyard or living in someone's room, who's been on the waiting list for 30 years. I can show you 100 people off the top of my head. These people have been on the waiting list for 30 years plus. So what has happened to their right to access the housing process? It has been abused. Because what has happened is since the DA, I think it was in 2009, first gained access to the city of Cape Town, they decided to chase the black vote using colored people's rights to housing. The instruction that I know that is given to officials is 80-20. That is how the list is to be populated. That is how the housing opportunities are supposed to be, are supposed to be handed. 80% black, 20% colored. In this province. This is why this influx was encouraged from the Eastern Cape and other parts. This is why what has happened has happened. It is because our rights have been trampled on by the DA and aided by the ANC. Lindiwe, the previous minister as well, they knew about this. They have an oversight responsibility. They were supposed to say, but you are right now, you are stepping on the rights of the colored people, and they never did. Now again, we've been shot off land. We've been evicted off land. Has the minister ever said to the city of Cape Town, but this is wrong or this is inhumane? However, when the city of Cape Town touched Khayelitsha, the minister was quick to show that she's the minister of housing. Apparently, she's not our minister too.
We're talking to Fadiel Adams this morning. It's 25 minutes now after 8 o'clock. We're talking about the spate of evictions that's happening at the moment across the Cape, from Hout Bay to Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain, and even parts of, the northern suburbs. There appears to be some issues, particularly along the west coast as well, that we are attending to. And we're trying to understand exactly what are the factors at play here in how this is being done. I'd like now, Fadiel, to talk about the role of law enforcement in all of this. There appears to be a direct approach here by law enforcement to be as hard as they possibly can be on people that are defenseless, poor, and are so desperate to simply move onto a piece of land.
These kids from law enforcement on 6 months, on training of 6 months, and sometimes 2 weeks also, from what I understand, don't have a clue as to what they're doing. They are being given directions by Richard Bosman, the executive director for law enforcement, a man who was accused of stealing petrol and never faced the charges. This is how deep the corruption in the city is going. What happens here is they are sent out with a clear brief: evict these people, whatever the cost. You could see it. You saw the radio. You saw the video. These kids aren't trained to handle this. And if they're trained to handle this, they're trained in apartheid-style tactics. And what do we expect? These are the heirs of apartheid at work here. The beneficiaries of apartheid at work here. They don't care about people of color. Just get off the land. That's the bottom line. These people are not trained to handle the situation. But let me tell you this. You don't need training to apply the law. You don't need training to apply logic, common sense, human dignity. The man needs a place to live. The man is naked. Just do the right thing. I'll tell you this, and I'm probably going to get in trouble with my organization and with the lawyers for what I'm about to say. But if I was ever to witness law enforcement abuse any man like that, brown, black, white, Indian, I don't care, there would be hell to pay. I encourage any community and my own support base that when you see law enforcement break the law, that you have a duty to stand up to it. And I don't care if you stone them. I don't care if you stone them. Let me say this on radio, because our people have our God-given rights to dignity, our God-given rights to live. You cannot abuse people like this. This is reminiscent of apartheid, where we would do as they say. If ever law enforcement abuses anyone like that, if I was a witness to it, I swear to God before you and before Allah right now, that I would start stoning right there. Because you are the custodians of the law. And let me make this clear also to our people who do not know. Law enforcement are not policemen. They are council officials. They have certain rights. They have certain responsibilities. They do not have the right to do this.
Fadiel Adams on the line with us. Fadiel, I want to test your response here to the what the mayor has responded to all of this. The mayor has come out to say that this particular individual, the one in Kailicha that was being hauled out of his shack while being naked, was that he had in fact, been watching and looking at law enforcement officials on their way to his own shack and him being removed in particular. They go on to claim that he in fact had potentially deliberately undressed himself, gotten wet, etc., as a tactic of some sort to stop law enforcement officials from in fact breaking down his shack, which they say was illegally erected. What do you make of Dan Plato and JP Smith and others coming out now to say perhaps this was even in fact being used as a tactic?
Let me just take you back a little. This is a little bit. Let me just take you back a little bit. On Saturday or Sunday, I was in Hangberg with a protest march. The same city of Cape Town claimed that there were 100 people. You were there as well, Tashrik. They issued a press release saying there was 100 people at the march. They lie. The same mayor, Dan Plato, once said, and I was in the hall, and he didn't know the mic was switched off, when he said people from the Eastern Cape can't think. Right? The same JP Smith accused me of setting a My City bus or a train. I'm not sure with the last protest. These people lie. It's what they do. The shack is made of what? Corrugated iron. It's made out of zinc. Was the mayor there to see through it, or is the mayor accusing the man of getting undressed? I don't know if the man saw law enforcement coming. I don't know if the man purposefully got undressed. But even if he did, you've got enough force there to put him back in the shack, get him dressed. To tackle the man outside like that. And for the mayor to come out in support. This is tacit support of what these officials did. This is wrong. Let me take you a little bit further back to what the mayor does. 9 months ago, staircasing collapsed in Manenberg. Staircasing. The city engineers came out. They condemned these staircases as unsafe. The mayor knows about this. Now, when it comes to health and safety, then you have a reasonable amount of time to fix it. A reasonable amount of time, by any standard, between 7 and 30 days. 9 months later, condemned staircases are still hanging there in Manenberg, waiting to fall on one of our pensioners or one of our children. That is your mayor. That is Dan Plato. That is the city of Cape Town. These people do not care about us. They do not care about poor brown, poor black. They don't care.
Fadiel Adams is on the line with us. He is from the Cape Coloured Congress. It's gone on to 8:30. We continue our conversation in a short bit. I look at the quest for land that increasingly, is being made. In fact, we're seeing townships mushrooming. And is this really the beginning of an even bigger war of some sort, a standoff of some sort between communities and authorities, all seeking, to live off land? And we'll talk about the need for land in a short bit as we continue our coverage this morning here on the Radio 786 100.4 FM. Time now for your headlines with Shanaz Gul Hamid.
Radio 786, news that matters.
Public health experts are concerned about the high COVID-19 death toll, especially in the Western Cape. A near 9,000 new COVID-19 infections have been recorded. The Basic Education Department says its failure to provide meals to over 9 million learners nationwide is due to logistics and a lack of infrastructure. Pulalani Kulani, the man who was barbarically handled by Cape Town law enforcement officers, says he wants his dignity back. And the United States has moved to try and seize 4 tankers sailing towards Venezuela with gasoline supplied by Iran. That's news making headlines on 100.4 FM Radio 786. Stay tuned for the bulletin at 9.
In our 100.4 FM, it is 28 minutes now before 9 o'clock, 0786 10 11 12, our WhatsApp number. You can text or voice note us there. We have Fadiel Adams on the line with us. He's somewhere down the west coast, I think close to Mamre, where he's talking to us this morning. And he's currently sitting in his vehicle. We're also live streaming this video. And of course, you can see that up on the Radio 786 Facebook page. Fadiel, let's try and understand, what at the heart of all of this is, or at least what is driving all of this, and that is the call and the need for land. This is evident through what we see in the Hout Bay, in Polweni, in Khayelitsha, what happened in Tafelsig, in very many other townships that are mushrooming everywhere. What do you suppose, we do in the interim when the city is telling, residents to be patient, to say that you have to wait, there's a waiting list and so on and so forth. Where do people go in the interim is often the question that lingers with me. So let's just talk about the need for land and how do we address the problem in the immediate.
You see, it is easy for a Steenhuisen or Plato or JP Smith to say to us that we have to be patient, but we've been patient for way too long. Remember where we live, those ghettos were built 50 to 60 years ago as concentration camps to keep us away from opportunity and far away from work, so that we could be too tired when we get home to go and fight the struggle, to go and fight for our rights. This is the design, and this is the perpetuation by the DA and the City of Cape Town. We said it to them on many occasions. I've said it to the various MECs for housing. Forget housing, man. Give people land. It is the cheapest and the easiest alternative. It's the only way. It's the right way. Give the land back to the people who owned it. They won't do this because they sell it. They sell it to their buddy contractors who give kickbacks to the DA for election times. And they sell it for next to nothing so that rich people can buy houses that they don't really need. Look at Hout Bay. Look at the hills. Look at the investors, foreigners, all of them. But the people of Hout Bay and Hangberg are being told, you just stay right there in your little concentration camp. Go and smother yourselves. The place is overpopulated. Every house in Hout Bay has got 3 or 4 shacks on it, attached to it. And I mean, where do these poor people go? Where do they go? With regards to the townships that are mushrooming, everybody has the right to movement, yes. But if you own land in the Eastern Cape, you have no right to own land. Not council own land from in the Western Cape as well. You cannot own property in 2 provinces. This is just unfair. Capetonians themselves own nothing. This is just wrong. I come from Lavendale. I come from Steenberg. I visit Parkwood, Ocean View, Hout Bay. It is sad to see 35 to 40 people in a 2-bedroom flat without a backyard. They can't even build a shack. Now, when the place gets too full, I mean, it's already too full, but a young man takes his family, and I speak here of the young man called Ginola from Hout Bay, and he says, look, I can't wait for the state. They're never going to get to me because my grandmother's still living in a shack, and decides to put up a little piece of whatever it is for him to live in. This is all he owns. The city comes and they break it down. What are our people to do? Is it the violent uprising that they want from us? Because I'm pretty sure they're going to get it soon. I don't want it. But what do? We are saying to the city, release all council-owned land. We are going to tell National very soon, give us our land. Whether they do it, we can't say. But with a housing budget that only allows for 15,000 houses to be built, out of those 15,000 houses here in the Western Cape, I'm speaking of the Western Cape, 3,000 will go to colored people. When there's a waiting list still going back to 1976. God knows, I don't know. But
Fadiel, I mean, it's good and well, because I do, to a certain degree, share the philosophy that, people should live off the land. The land was created, you must then be able to make your food, etc., etc. But where I do, struggle with is the concept of doing it in a coordinated fashion. You can't have, for instance, scenarios such as you've earlier lamented, the Sikalo informal settlement and others, that you see it, for instance, informal settlements mushroom in that way, where there's no toilets, there's no drainage, there's no water coming into those communities, and then you see an even greater problem. So surely, how does one then find the balance here between somebody seeking to live off the land and creating even bigger problems that, later down the line we may not be able to ever control?
Tashrik, I only heard the last 15 seconds of what you just said, but I heard the part of drainage. Let me tell you this. You go to any squatter camp in the country, there's no drainage anyway. Our people will find a way. We have the skills. Understand that it is not Power Construction and Murray and Roberts that builds. It is our people. We just don't get paid properly. We will find a way. There's various ways of housing. There's various ways of accommodation. It doesn't have to be brick and mortar. There are things like new tech, like wood, like timber frame. There are means if only there's the political will. You know, if you look at RDP housing at the moment, someone is making a financial killing building houses for poor people. The houses could have been of a much better quality. They could be of a much better size. I'll take you to Kalbaskral if you ever have time. Do you know what those people are getting? An outside toilet and a 50-odd square meter plot. That's what they think of us in terms of housing. That is what just say it slowly, 50-odd square meter plot. You put up your structure, your children can't even move. Then your daughters will go outside to use the toilet. I think we can do better by ourselves.
Yeah. We're talking to Fadiel Adams this morning here on Radio 786 100.4 FM. It's the Friday morning extended conversation. It's gone 20 minutes now before 9 o'clock. Let's look then here at what you think is going to be, at least the signs that we're seeing at the moment. Tensions continue to remain high in Hangberg, in Khayelitsha as well. Different parts of the Cape Flats are beginning to see a great amount of anger at their current living standards and their conditions. Do you suppose, Fadiel, that we are beginning to see the start of something much bigger that the mayor would not be able to control, in the days and months to come?
I can tell you this: the mayor can't control his own office staff. I've given him a paper trail of evidence relating to fraud and corruption in the housing process in the city of Cape Town. I've given him evidence of fraud and corruption into the maintenance of the CRUs in the city of Cape Town. The mayor can't act on it. The mayor is a puppet. I'll say it to his face, I'll say it on the radio, I'll say it on TV, because I can back it up. The city of Cape Town has no idea about governance. Let me make this clear. They know about marketing. It's marketed as the best run province in the country until you come live where I live. If you live in Goodwood, yeah. If you live in Claremont, Constantia, then you could reasonably say this is the best run province in the country. Come to the ghetto. Come to where I live. Come to Lavendale. Come to Lentegee, Mitchell's Plain. Go to Bonteheuwel. Go to Elsie's River. Tell me that these people know what they do. Something is going to happen, because something has got to give. Something has got to give. The poor won't take much more of this. I don't need to tell you that, Tashlik. You know this. You know, every man has his limit. Every man has his breaking point. As of now, we have decided that on the 27th of this month, in solidarity with Hamburg, with Hout Bay, we are going to shut down this metro again. Because we won't allow these people to abuse our people like this. That they can't target us like this. That they can't mistreat us like this. That when we need land and you will not give it to us, we will take it. And I'm not instigating, how do I put it? I'm not instigating any land invasions here. I'm saying we're claiming our right. The original owners of Hout Bay are the people of Hamburg. The people being denied access to Hout Bay. Being denied jobs in Hout Bay. There's been one housing development in Hout Bay since Mandela was released. One. You'll count the amount of houses, probably about 50 houses built. Look at Ottery. It's 50 years of neglect. They now want to build 86 houses, 86 units, and they expect an applause. I could show you one block of flat that needs 86 houses. They want to build for the entire ward, Ottery and Parkwood, 86 houses on a sports field. They want to take away our children's sports fields. The one thing that will keep them out of the clutches of the gangs and the drugs, they want to take that away because they won't build close to the suburbs. They will not build close to the suburbs. What happened to integration, Mr. Mayor? I'm talking about the actual mayor, not JP Smith, not that. What happened to integration? There's no integration here. We still live in enclaves. Whites live amongst whites, blacks live amongst blacks, colored live among coloreds. This is what drives us. It's madness. It can't go on. We want integration. As the CCC, we say we want full integration, not the workplace integration. The only place we communicate with people outside of our own race is at work. That's not what we fought for.
Yeah. Right. Fadiel Adams is joining us this morning. He is, speaking to us live from Mamre down the West Coast. You can see the live stream up on the Radio 786 Facebook page. We're also running that live over there. Fadiel, I'd like to maybe just try and bring this back, right? Because sometimes we tend to talk about these evictions and people's living standards in a very clinical way, right? We fail to make the understanding, or at least the correlation here between what somebody, the fact that somebody lives in a shack, but what that actually does mean. For instance, their access to a toilet, their access to water, how they bath, how they wash every single day, where they make food. I look, for instance, at this gentleman's home that was being broken down in Kailicha, the one that they've forcefully removed naked from his home. It's a small little room where one can't even properly change your mind in. So talk to me about what translate the actual real living conditions of people, irrespective of the color of their skin. The fact that they live in these types of conditions.
Tashik, I am not a shack dweller. I'm fortunate enough to live in a house, so I can't be the spokesperson for shack dwellers. There's a lesson in there, Mr. John Steenhuisen, if you listen to this. However, let me tell you this. A 3 by 3 meter shack, which is what the city of Cape Town gives you when your house burns down, when your shack burns down. They give you enough sheeting for 3 by 3. Now, in 3 by 3, your bed takes up 2 square meters. Well, not 2, 1.5 square meters. If you're fortunate enough to own a cupboard, that's another half a square meter. Where does your kitchen sink go? Where do your kids sleep? What do you do with your clothing? Where do you make food? Where do you bath? You bath on the bed. In winter, if you have a leak, 4 to 6 people in this little shack have to sleep in one corner with buckets all over. It's inhumane. And I was at Hangberg, and they were talking about enhanced, what do they call it? Enhanced material. And I asked the question, what is enhanced material? Because this is what they want to give to the lady who they allocated a small plot to. And they say poles, sink, nails. That's an enhanced kit. That's the word I was using, sorry. This is their version of an enhanced kit for backyarders. So what is the basic one? What do you take away to make it basic? Because what you got is poles, rafters, nails. The city of Cape Town using nice terms. But you see, the problem with the city of Cape Town is once they've given you that, they tick a box that says that they've housed you. Now, to the casual observer, it sounds like you have a house or you have something decent. No, you don't. You live like an animal. You live like an animal. Then you take it a step further. That the same city of Cape Town last year sent back 1 billion rand in housing money, unspent. They said that they couldn't spend the money. With a need like this, they had the audacity to say that they couldn't spend the money. And again, the minister did not take them to task for it. Because the ANC is too happy to receive the money so they can steal it on the other end of the line. Now, let me make this clear to you, Tashri, and you can think of me what I will when I say this. To me, the ANC and the DA are in the same WhatsApp group when it comes to poor people. We mean nothing to them. The poor mean nothing to them. The poor are a means to an end, an opportunity to steal, to loot. That's it, full stop. If you want to know about the living conditions of people in backyards, I can end it for you in one word. It is inhumane. The right to dignity should be enshrined in the housing process as well. That a 3-year-old girl with a stomach bug, with a runny tummy, should not have to go outside to go and use a toilet. Should not be at risk of the element out there. I can tell you now that if you were to take a statistical approach to TB, 90% of the people with TB probably live in backyards or in shacks or in informal settlements. It's logical. It's logical. And therefore, I cannot understand how the city can be so nonchalant to this. It is a plague, man. And it is a wrong. It can't be justified. What do we do about it? We get rid of them. The DA must go. And the ANC with it. What we need is a government that is going to care. A government that is going to put the poor first every time. And be unapologetic about it. What we're going to have with what we have is more squatter camps, more sickness, more social ills, more crime. It's what they want. That's how they stay in power.
Well, it is looking for a different political home, the viable option here. I know you two have found your political voice recently, in registering a political party. But the reality is that there is a big mistrust, of politicians and of political parties itself. That the system appears to not be working. Evidently, it's not been working and it's not been delivering. So, is really looking towards a different political home the answer here? I don't quite know what the other option to this is, but you're saying the DA and the ANC. I'm not sure. Do you look to a different political home for the answer, or by you saying this, are you politicking this very issue?
I'm not politicking this issue. I'm just stating a fact. People are justifiably mistrustful of politicians. I can tell you that, and there's justification for it. What I'm saying is that we have a two-party state, and this is the problem, that people are short on alternative. People mistrust the ANC, and rightly so, and therefore they vote for the DA. People don't know the policies of the DA. People don't know that the unofficial working document says the hell with the poor. So people have to vote for the DA, and the Western Cape in particular. We want to keep the ANC out. I've got no argument against that. I've got no gripe against it. The ANC should stay out. But do we deliver the Western Cape to the DA every time? I think that what we need is a coalition of various small parties who can disagree, who can agree to disagree. But various small parties must come to the fore. It doesn't have to be the CCC. It doesn't have to be, I don't know who else. But yeah, people need to start changing their their voting patterns. Get various players at the table. You see, what happens here is when we gave the DA a 60% plus majority, they could do what they want to. So what did they do? They got rid of the executive system. The executive system was what held them to account, because political parties other than the DA had a seat at the table where decisions were made. They then brought in the MACO system, which means that nobody except the DA has a say. So if the DA wants to say that, let's spend millions on Constantia, which doesn't need a cent to be spent on it. But anyway, they spend millions on Constantia because there was no accountability. Oversight, yes, but not accountability. And there's a difference. You see, the DA will do with us what it will until we break its majority. Then it will start getting a little bit more humble. Then it will have to ask instead of say. Because, tell me something, if colored people, the majority in the province, had a say with what is happening right now, would it be happening? The DA is not accountable to us. It's accountable to rich people. And the majority of those people happen to be white. And those are the facts. So what do? They see to it that Bergfleet, Constantia, Claremont, Bishopscourt, Llandudno, those areas are as pristine now as they were in apartheid. And then they take Bonteheuwel and they take Mitchell's Plain. I can tell you now, my area was cleaner under apartheid. It's regressing. That our schools were better, that our kids were safer. Because this is the DA's governance 101. That's how it works. We'll take your money, we'll spend it there. In Constantia, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people at a maximum live in a house. Yet the dirt bins are cleaned twice a week. In Mitchell's Plain, you got 25 people living on a property and the dirt bins are cleaned once a week. Not clean, the dirt is collected once a week. Do you understand the disparity in services? Do you understand the mistreatment of a certain people? That's how it goes. That's what we vote for. I don't want to be in politics. I think it's a filthy game. I think it makes you more enemies than friends. Now, I certainly have more enemies than friends nowadays. But someone's got to do something. I refuse to lay and die. I refuse to let my children grow up like this. We need to do something about this. Otherwise, our children will be abused as well. Thrown from shack to shack. Wolverine, that's where you go. Let me tell you this. Out here in Stellenbosch is a farm that belonged to a Dr. Rix. Dr. Rix died, but he was renting the farm from the city, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, or maybe it was private. But anyway, there was an eviction going on there. But because there were white tenants on the farm as well who had nowhere to go, poor whites, genuinely poor whites, the city of Stellenbosch found them another farm to go and live on, just up the road. When we get evicted, where do we go? Ask Bromwell Street, where do they go? Wolverine, Blikkiesdorp. Not somewhere convenient, not somewhere where you're familiar with everything around, where it's close to your work, where it's close to your kids' school. Wolverine, Blikkiesdorp. Why? Because you're not white. The city of Cape Town will always pander to the white minority. And this needs to come to an end. I refuse to live in a Volksstad. This is the new Oranje. I don't want to part in it.
Fadiel,
if you're talking about how viable it is, let me make this clear to you, that it is extremely viable. That people need to understand that there's more than 2 parties on the ballot. That there are smaller parties out there that will do a hell of a lot more for them than the big ones.
Fadiel Adams, thanks so very much for talking to us. It's certainly been a pleasure this morning, looking at these very broader perspectives around the evictions that are currently happening in the city of Cape Town, from Hangberg to Mpolweni and Khayelitsha, as we've seen in the last month or so. We'll touch base with you once again. In the meantime, keep safe and, hope that you reach Cape Town safely once again. And shukran so very much for talking to Radio 786.
Shukran for giving us the opportunity to vent, man. Yeah. You go well. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fadiel Adams there. He is from the Cape Coloured Congress. Spitting all manner of truth is what some WhatsApp messages are saying here. A lot of you are agreeing with Fadiel around his perspectives in terms of how to read the situation around evictions. We're going to take a break, and once we return, I'll go through some of your WhatsApp messages on 0786 10 11 12. It is 7 minutes now before 9 o'clock. This has been NRA on 100.4 FM.